All right, man, peace. So now this is going to be part two in the series on Kanye West and whether or not he has quote-unquote lost his mind. Let me first say this pertaining to Mr. Kanye West. I view him as a sympathetic figure. Why do I say that? Because I believe that he's been a pawn his whole life. I do believe that the brother is extremely talented, but he is an asset that has been placed in the industry to cause confusion, first within his own life, and then throughout this quote-unquote society as much as he can. That's why so much attention is placed on him. And a lot of so-called black people have to ask themselves these questions. Why do you care so much about what Kanye West has to say about anything? He's a music producer. Why are you so concerned about what he thinks about quote-unquote race or history, etc.? You know why so many of you care? When I say you, I'm talking about you liberal blacks. You care so much because deep down you know that you don't know shit about your own history. So when Kanye West makes statements that you feel like makes so-called blacks look bad, quote unquote, to white people, you get upset with him. And that's why Daz Dillinger and Eve and a lot of these other lame, two-dimensional thinking liberal blacks who are also Luciferians, most likely unbeknownst to them because they're at a low level, they get upset with people like Kanye because he makes them look bad in front of company. Our people are still desperately trying to get that hug from the Caucasian. And one thing that I will say about Kanye West, he's also trying to get the hug, but at least he has a greater level of understanding in regards to why he's trying to get it. And as I've already stated, Kanye West is an asset. He was raised up in the programming by his father, Ray West, who is a high official and instructor in Scientology, which for those of you who don't know is an offshoot of the Aleister Crowley philosophy known as Thelema, meaning do what thou wilt, which Aleister Crowley claims that he wrote down under the inspiration of Heru. But anyway, you know what? We're going to let these people here talk, and of course I'm going to chime in.
So, first of all, thank you so much for coming here and doing this. I want to start with what everybody is talking about, because I don't think people necessarily understand what happened last week with the Make America Great Again hat.
Now listen to what Harvey Levin just asked Kanye West. He stated, I don't think that most people understand what happened last week in regards to why Kanye West chose to wear a Make America Great Again hat. I believe that is pretty self-explanatory. When people wear that hat, it's because they agree with the slogan and they agree with the concepts and the precepts of Mr. Donald Trump. It's not that difficult to grasp. So what is Harvey Levin really asking him? He's asking him, Kanye West, why are you as a so-called black man aligning yourself with a Republican representative like Donald Trump when you're supposed to be a Democrat? All you so-called black people are supposed to be Democrats. You're supposed to buy into the controlled opposition that's been created in the United States political field, that being Democrat versus Republican. You have to pick a side. You also have to pick one of two candidates, and you have to believe in a lot of the jargon that's put forth by the Democratic candidate, that he's here to save you, that he's here to assist you. Why are you not following suit, Kanye West? For those of you who don't know, TMZ is set up to basically be a surveillance mechanism over many of the more prominent stars / celebrities in Hollywood. They're put into power, TMZ is, to make sure that all these so-called celebrities know that they're constantly being watched and surveilled. That's their sole purpose, TMZ is. This whole nonsense about how they provide quote-unquote gossip or information is all a front. They do provide information, but that's a front. Their sole purpose is to follow around these celebrities.
So, everybody wants to hear from you, and I want to have a discussion about it.
Let me say this. It would not surprise me if Harvey Levin has associations with the Israeli Mossad. But let's go back to that photo real quick.
Great Again hat. So
now let's look at this photo. As we can see, there are two Caucasian quote-unquote gentlemen in this photo, as well as Kanye West. It looks like Kanye is the one taking the photo because his right arm is extended. But why is it that the two Caucasian males are smiling and Kanye West is not? Could it be because he took this photo at their behest, at their instruction? Because as I stated, the reason why he wore that hat was to cause as much drama and confusion as possible. Him being an agent of chaos, i.e. Harpocrates. As you can see under that hat, he has his blonde hair. He's going through his blonde hair altar. He must cause as much drama, as much confusion as possible. He is the clown god. Now, I believe even in the ancient quote-unquote Mesoamerican culture, you also had a clown god figure by the name of Tezcatlipoca, who always wore the jaguar skin. Sometimes you'll even see many of these artists, I believe that Chris Brown has done this, he'll wear the blonde hair dye with the leopard spots in the hair dye. But just getting back to this photograph right here, you can see in the middle, that person there is Mr. Lear Cohen. He is also a Caucasian Jew. With his left hand, he's throwing up the Yoni sign, the 666 sign, showing you what? He's a high-level Kabbalist. Within the programming of most of these assets, as I stated in part 1, they oftentimes will install various images, whether it be the cube, the quote-unquote tree of life, i.e. the Kabbalah tree of life, the six-pointed star, so on and so forth. Six-pointed star to represent so-called Judaism, but really to represent the planet Saturn. There is a lot more going on here than oftentimes people understand. But once again, pay attention. Kanye West is not smiling. These other two are smiling. He's an asset. That's all he is. He's a corporate whore. And he's not in control of his own actions most of the time. That's why they keep him doped up. For those of you who remember, I did a video pertaining to Mr. LeBron James, in which I showed you a photo that he took with a very prominent quote-unquote Jewish rabbi and high-level Kabbalist by the name of Yeshayahu Pinto. And in the photo, LeBron James was holding hands with him, and he also was not smiling. A lot of these prominent black celebrities in Hollywood are getting extorted spiritually. Not even financially, but spiritually they're being extorted. They're being told what spiritual systems they must adhere to. They must become Kabbalists. They must become adherents to certain levels of esotericism. They must become members of the occult, of the craft. If not, they're going to be revealed. They're going to be brought down very, very low. All the dirt that they've ever done is going to be exposed.
Everybody wants to hear from you, and I want to have a discussion about it. What drove you to that? What was your point? What are you trying to do with the message you're sending?
Well, it was really just my subconscious. It was a feeling I had.
Now, did you hear what he just said? He stated that he wore the red Make America Great Again hat because of his subconscious, a feeling that he had. In other words, it was a trigger. It was not a conscious decision for him to do that. That's what I've been telling you, brothers. He's not in control of his decision making.
You know, like, people were taught how to think, we're taught how to feel. We don't know how to think for ourselves. We don't know how to feel for ourselves.
I agree with that to a degree, especially so-called black people. Most so-called black people do not know how to think because of the various layers of programming that our people have had imbued upon them as a group en masse through the educational system and through the television. And I've touched on this over and over again. They always want to align black equals slave. That's what they want to resonate in your mind. And as I've stated previously, the word slave and the term slave was applied to Caucasians, like the term Slavic. That word has the same root as the word slave or Slav. It just means servant. Because the Caucasian of Southeastern Europe was the actual servant under the Byzantine Empire, which was ruled over by so-called black people. Just as the serfs of Western Europe were Caucasian and they were being ruled over by so-called blacks who ruled in the Angevin Empire. But that's a whole other video for another day. But this is part of a lot of the quote-unquote technology of the modern educational system. And that's why our people, they're starting from a root of believing that all their ancestry was based in slavery. So, of course, they're seeking out equality. Our people don't seek out rulership because they feel like they've never had it in the past.
People say feel free, but they don't really want us to feel free. And I felt a freedom in, first of all, just doing something that everybody tells you not to do.
In other words, you were an agent of chaos. The root of chaos is being a contrarian for the sake of being a contrarian. Did you hear what he just stated? He said he felt a freedom in doing something that everyone told him not to do. So really, why did you do it, Kanye? The reasoning that you've given thus far is that you had a feeling in your subconscious and also that you were doing something that everyone told you not to do. So there's no real substance, there's no real empirical information in regards to why you did what you did. So you're a pawn.
Like, you can't do it for this reason, you can't do this for that reason. So, and you know, I'm not coming up here to justify anything. It's, you know, you can't tell me nothing. I made the song, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't tell me what I'm, you know, supposed to do. And also,
and brothers should go back and listen to that song, Can't Tell Me Nothing. Kanye states very point blank that he turned against the Most High when you listen to that song. That's why he's in the condition that he's in right now. But once again, there are numerous songs that you could listen to where Kanye tells you that he's an asset, or the video shows you that he's an asset. Flashing lights in particular, he's telling you that he's an asset. Flashing lights are used on MK assets in order to bring forth certain personas that are trapped, certain altars that have been rendered inert. Once again, that is why one of the themes of the film Get Out was the flashing lights of the camera.
It's like, oh, the idea of icons and representations. You know, I don't subscribe to icons. You take,
nor should you. For those of you brothers who read the scriptures, the word image in the Bible is translated from the term icon in Greek. That word it comes from a Greek word spelled E-I-K-O-N. It just means an image. We're not supposed to subscribe to icons or images.
Like the Nazi symbol, if you go to India, it's all over the place, but it doesn't represent that. It represents something different.
Absolutely. The so-called swastika symbol is actually a representation of the sun. It's known as the sun wheel. It's in regards to sun worship. That's why, as I mentioned in one of these other videos, I believe the video that I did on Travis Ryan King, all of these prominent so-called white supremacy groups sprang out of esotericism. They sprang out of Luciferianism. The reason why Hitler and the Nazis, the reason why they abducted the swastika symbol is because they were into the occult. They venerated the sun and they worshiped the planet Saturn.
So for me to wear that hat means I want to make America great in my own way. So,
and let me say this. That's the mentality that the so-called liberal black is supposed to have, because as we all know, they don't want to leave America. They just want to complain about quote-unquote oppression and racism. So that's why I say that Kanye West is farther along than the average liberal black. He actually knows why he wants to hug. What most liberal blacks want to do is complain about white people all day, but they want to stay here in America. Because let's be for real, our people are scared of having the responsibility of having to build up their own. They look at the Caucasian man as a proverbial daddy that they're rebelling against. That's why I stated many videos ago that so-called black people are at the level of adolescence. You know, when a child becomes an adolescent, they start to rebel against their parents just for the sake of rebelling. And our people have not ascended to a level of adulthood yet as a quote-unquote community, because we don't have one. Why? Because we don't have a culture right now. In order for us to restore a culture, we have to attain to a higher level of maturity as a people.
So were you wearing the hat specifically to...
Once again, look at this photo. The two Caucasian Jews are smiling. Kanye West is not. Leo Cohen is a major mover and shaker at Def Jam. He's the one who got Jay-Z to get rid of Damon Dash because they had plans for Jay-Z.
Show support for Donald Trump.
Or was it a bigger statement about free thought?
And I cannot accentuate this enough. Kanye West is not smiling. His quote-unquote mood when he took the photo for someone who claims that he's trying to promote the ideologies of Donald Trump does not seem too jovial. He does not seem to be a person who is that enthused about pushing a lot of the ideologies that he claims to be enthused about promoting and pushing.
What? I mean, I'm an artist, right? So to ask an artist, there's infinite reasons. There's infinite reasons to the why an artist does something. An artist doesn't need suggestions. An artist needs paintbrush and a canvas. So
that's his way of saying, I really can't substantiate anything that I do or say. So I'm going to use the artist's excuse for my haphazard and reckless behavior, because that's always a good cover.
So this opened up a conversation. I'm probably going to do the least good explanation of why.
Now, did you hear what Kanye West just stated? He said, I'm probably going to do the least good explanation of why I did what I did. he still has not stated why he's done anything that he's done. Because he is an agent of chaos. He's under programming. He's doing it at the behest of others. That's it. That's the only reason why he's doing what he's doing. He needs attention. He sees that there is a great power in being a provocateur, as many people see today. They call it trolling. Kanye West has been trolling the American public. Why? Because he knows that most so-called black people are emotionally unstable. So the powers that be are using him to try to troll the American public and hopefully galvanize more so-called black people to vote for their quote-unquote Democratic candidate when the time comes.
I'm just connected with the universe, period. You know, I'm just, and that's going to come off whack. Don't try to wacko jacko me for saying that.
No, brother, I'm not going to wacko jacko you, because Michael Jackson was under very similar programming as you. Michael Jackson was under Peter Pan programming. He also was a monarch child. And you'll see that monarch children, they will oftentimes make statements like that. They're interested in butterflies and flowers, stars, and things of that nature. They have a close affinity to the elements. They like to be out in the woods. They like to talk about how they're one with the universe, because they have a lot of planetary bodies that are imbued in different levels of their subconscious, particularly Saturn, the sun, the moon, etc.
Because that's what the media is trying to do. They're attacking me with these smoke screens that I'm not gonna fall for. Like I see you got Daz Dillinger on it, so they put
Also, please make sure that you understand that most of the monarch butterflies, when I say monarch butterflies, I'm talking about people put into the programming, they start to break down around 29 to 30, which is around the time that Kanye really first started to quote unquote fall off the wagon. He's still dealing with the various issues that he has to come to terms with because of his programming. The programming is not meant to last very, very strongly beyond the age of 29 to 30. So once those breakdowns start to occur, you hear about people being taken back to psychiatric facilities. Remember that Mariah Carey also first started to have her breakdowns around the age of 30 as well. And of course, Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, they had it at younger ages. But when you see people, oftentimes they'll shave their head bald because they're going through what's called self-destruct programming.
A media takeout had said the Crips have a hit on Kanye West, right? And I said, wow, this is really like the Malcolm X movie.
I agree with you, bro. But a lot of times, so-called black people are not even aware of what they're doing. They become so impassioned by their emotional stances that they're not even quite aware of how they're repeating history. Our people repeat history all the time because they're led by their emotions. So I agree with Kanye on that. You definitely have people who were ready to kill him because of the statements that he made in regards to supporting Donald Trump. And you certainly have people who are ready to kill him in regards to the statements that he made in regards to black people wanting to be slaves for 400 years, which he said in a very clunky way. He was not talking about actual slavery. He was talking about our people still having a slave mindset today. But we're going to get to that very soon.
Really gonna send some black people to kill me. And then when I read it, it said the Crips are gonna beat Kanye up when they see him, and I was like, oh, that's so dope. They love me. That's like my brother. Your brother beat you up.
Kanye a fool. But isn't it interesting? Isn't it so easy for so-called black people to get on the internet and talk about how they're gonna find Kanye West and they're gonna kill him? But those same Crips and Daz Dillinger, who claims that he's so much against Donald Trump, why didn't he put a hit out on Donald Trump? Why is he going to put a hit out on Kanye West? Since you're against Donald Trump, right? Snoop Dogg is also allegedly a Crip, and supposedly he hates Donald Trump. How come they haven't put a hit out on Donald Trump, but they're going to put one out on Kanye West?
Like, man, you getting out of line, bro. You tripping. I'm going to beat you up. I was like, oh, man, that's love, man. Daz love me, and I love Daz. And
you don't love Daz, and you know Daz don't love you. The only reason why you're saying that is because you hope that they're going to be easy on you because of your comments. But at the end of the day, you're not allowed to be a so-called black man that is a three-dimensional thinker, because people are going to try to attack you. And depending on what you think in your three-dimensional thought process, that's going to determine the severity of the attack against you. So Kanye West is someone who's fighting. He's struggling to break free of the psychological stranglehold, a lot of the restraints that have been programmed onto his conscious and subconscious mind. So once again, he's a victim.
Seriously?
That's how you took it when you saw the video of Dad saying,
Oh, you could live through an ass whipping. You ain't gonna live through, what I think that there.
And please keep in mind, Kanye West is a grown man with 2 children. It's always amazing to me how easy it is for other so-called quote-unquote thug black men to talk about what they're going to do to another black man just because he says something that they disagree with. This is a person in Kanye West who's not threatening anybody's life, but you're going to get on television, you're going to get in front of a camera and talk about how you're going to put a hit out on him. But put the hit out on Donald Trump. He's the one with all the power. He's the one who's supposedly hurting the black community so much. How come you won't put the hit out on him? I know why that is. Because you know that you're not strong enough to go up against a good white man. You wouldn't dare.
Probably the idea is to beat sense into me, but...
Yes, and I'm glad that he put that in quotes. Because the black mob, or as I call them, the pro-black mafia, they believe that they're the possessors of quote-unquote sense. They have so much so-called sense that our people have the highest rates of just about everything bad in this society and the lowest rates of everything good. I know a lot of so-called pro-blacks are going to get very upset by that. They're going to say the white man does this and the white man does that. 90% of the issues in the so-called black community can be solved by us. By us. But our people don't want to solve those issues because a lot of them are offshoots of a lot of the liberal ideologies that they embrace. If we were to say what are the problems between the so-called black man and black woman in regards to relationships, people are going to list a litany of reasons. The main issue is that the so-called liberal black woman has embraced feminism and she's not going to let it go. Many liberal black males have embraced the veneration of the feminine principle. They worship women. They will not let it go. Many liberal black males have embraced drug culture and they will not let it go. These are real issues in the so-called black community. And we can get to the problems of the education system and the police force and so on and so forth down the line, but there are certain essential problems that only our people can solve. Nobody else can solve them. No Caucasian politician is going to solve these so-called black communities' problems. Nor do they want to. They're making too much money based off of our people's dysfunctionality.
When you hear about slavery for 400 years, that sounds like a choice. Like, you was there for 400 years and it's all of y'all?
Let me say this very quickly. Of course, his statement was extremely controversial amongst the liberal blacks. Listen to what he stated. He said, slavery for 400 years sounds like a choice. You know what Kanye West is? He's someone who's questioning the slave narrative. And as I've stated on this channel numerous times, the slave narrative is something that's taught to so-called black children to program them from a young age to synchronize the term slave with the term black and all other races as well. Now, these same other races will talk about how all races have been put in slavery, but they know that when they think black, they think slave because that's what they've been taught in the educational system. Kanye West, in a very clunky, awkward way, is trying to question the slave narrative. First off, it's totally fallacious. And it's a whole other topic for another day. But as I've stated in the past, so-called blacks had Caucasians in slavery as well during that time period. So-called blacks had other blacks in slavery. Caucasians had Caucasians in slavery, or what was known more as indentured servitude. You had so-called blacks who were indentured servants as well. But the slavery paradigm that's put forth is totally based on what they call the triangle trade, which is Caucasian European explorers went to the west coast of Africa, got slaves, brought them over here to the Americas in exchange for rum, so on and so forth. Most of that is not based in fact. As I've stated, the so-called black people of the Americas come from 3 separate locations. You have the Aboriginal blacks who are already here. You have the so-called blacks that were brought here from the west coast of Africa. And you have the so-called black people who came over here from Europe, who were fleeing a lot of the religious wars / race wars of Europe. And that's the history that they don't want so-called black people to know about, is the fact that many of the so-called black people who came over here to the Americas and many of the so-called black people today are descendants of black Europeans who ruled in Europe for well over 1,000 years and started to fall during the 1600s. But those are some other topics for another day. But you know what's so interesting about what Kanye West said as well? He said that slavery sounded like a choice, and so many liberal blacks got upset with what he said. But when Harriet Tubman, who supposedly is one of the top heroic figures in the black community, what was the quote that was attributed to her? She said that I could have saved far more slaves if I could have gotten them to understand that they were slaves. So what's the difference between what she said and what Kanye West basically implied with his statement? Nothing. There is no difference. And then when you add in Martin Luther King stating that it was his dream and his hope that he could hold hands with Caucasians and they could all sing that old Negro spiritual, that's another archetypal figure that so-called black people look to as a hero. But I wonder if they will call Martin Luther King a coon because he sought to hold hands with Caucasians. That's what I mean when I say a lot of our people are very confused. And it was just laughable to me to see people like Daz Dillinger and the rapper Eve talk about how Kanye West is confused and how he's ignorant. Rapper Eve basically nothing but a $2 hoe who had the greatest come up in stripper history. Married to a Caucasian man running her mouth about Kanye West. That's how high the buffoon factor is in the liberal black aspect of the so-called black community.
You know, like, it's like we're mentally in prison. I like the word prison because slavery.
And that's exactly what he meant the whole time. He was not trying to imply that so-called black people loved to be slaves back in the early 1800s. What he was saying is that our people are still under a certain level of quote-unquote slavery today. Why is that? Because our people are caught up in various paradigms and archetypes that they cannot get out of. They cannot think outside of those boxes. And of course, he's the wrong person to bring forth those facts because he does not know how to edify people properly, because he does not understand history. He doesn't know history. But he's someone searching for the truth. He just has never been taught anything.
Slavery goes too direct to the idea of blacks. It's like slavery, Holocaust Jews, slavery is blacks.
Exactly. You see, he's trying to make certain connections because he understands that the slavery narrative is not something that makes sense. And he understands the programming. Slavery equals blacks. And that's what I've been telling a lot of you brothers for a very long time. That's what is taught to the children, to the so-called black children that are sent to the so-called educational system here in this society.
So prison is something that unites us as one race, blacks and whites being one race.
Now, there he goes trying to angle for that hug. That's the part where he departs from the truth and what he was trying to get towards. And that's the reason why people cannot build towards anything of substance, because their true goal is to get that hug. He's trying to find a unifying force between so-called black and so-called white when he was on a good road.
That we're one, we're the human race, we're human beings and stuff, and eventually, you know.
Can I go back to something you just said? Because I don't want to let it pass. You said.
Of course you don't want to let it pass, because you're a Caucasian Jew. You see an opportunity to engage in a race discussion and see if you can have a so-called black man step on a landmine.
Said that slavery was around for 400 years. At a point, it becomes a choice.
Yeah, right now we're choosing to be enslaved.
This is the second time that Kanye West has expounded on his sentiment, and he has stated explicitly that it is based on his understanding of mental slavery, not a quote-unquote choice that so-called black people made to be in physical slavery. It's the second time that he's made that very clear.
We're like, okay, so Ebro, I FaceTime him, and I'm there with Candace, right? And Ebro starts bringing up his version of facts, right? And
first off, you're not supposed to be having real discussions with clowns like that. He's a hip-hop DJ, a hip-hop VJ. His job is to appeal to the intelligence level of his audience, and no disrespect, the average person listening to those radio stations is not particularly swift or smart. So he has to make sure that the tone of the conversation stays at a low enough level to appeal to his listeners. That means that the conversation has to be mostly emotionally based. It cannot be factually based or anything meant to appeal to intelligence. But you know what? We're going to continue this on part 3. Peace.